Hello and welcome to Ham Nation for October 13th, 2021. Thanks for coming out, everybody. And how's it going? I am Josh, KI6NAZ. Thanks for clicking on the Ham Radio Crash Course here, now the home of Ham Nation. So thanks, everybody, for coming out again. We really do appreciate it, and we're going to have some fun today, maybe talking about winterizing your shack, getting ready for the cold that is sweeping in. I'm wearing a sweater because, you know, it's 65 in California. So anyway, let's go say hi to some of the hosts we have on tonight, and then we'll get things kicked off. Oh, we got an S, but we'll go with Amanda first. Mr. S will be on in there in a second. How's it going, Amanda?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic. And it is actually, it's starting to get cold here. Garden is done. And we're going to hit 30 degrees tonight for a cold. And we had about 59 for the high. So it is now officially winter time, unfortunately.
We have this we have this fun transition that we go through in October where we call it, you know, sweater weather in California, Southern California, right? And my wife woke up and I think maybe it was the high 50s, and she was like, oh, it's sweater weather. So she got her sweater on and she took the kids to school, and she came back and she was sweating because in the like 10 minutes or so that it was sweater weather, it bumped up like 15 degrees on her, and all of a sudden she's like, oh, it's like, you know, 75, 80 degrees.
My sister does the same thing in Santa Barbara. She gets out her Uggs. Seriously, you own Uggs in Santa Barbara. Yeah. And puts on her scarf. And she's like, I'm going to go get a pumpkin spice latte. Fine, Twyla, do your thing. But
we do the
welcome to winter.
That's right. We do the Uggs with shorts and a t-shirt and a scarf. And that, so you just get, I mean, that's good heat retention, right? You lose the most heat out of your head and down in your feet. That's where you lose all your heat. So that makes sense. Well, we do have Don, but I'm not sure what happened to Don there. So I think he'll be back here shortly. Do we want to just dive right in and say hello to our guest?
I would love to say hello to our guest. We have a great guest tonight. And as everybody knows who he is, we got Tim Duffy from DX Engineering joining us this evening. And great pleasure to have you on tonight, Tim. And you're going to talk, I don't know actually what you're going to talk about, but we can't wait to hear about it. So why don't you take it away?
All right, Amanda, and thanks so much for having me. And Josh doing a great job here with Ham Nation. And so, you know, when it does get into the fall time and into winter time, it's time to start thinking about things in your shack and also things outside. But one of the things that I see at a lot of ham radio stations is that they're not bonded and grounded properly. So one of the things is to have a good single point ground connection. And this is a ground bar that we have at DX Engineering, and it makes it very easy to use 1/4-inch hardware to properly ground your station. And you can see here, we've got the 1-inch tin copper braid that connects to the, goes to the radio, goes to the amplifier. And this is real important to make sure that everything is at the same voltage potential. So bonding is really important. And if you haven't properly done it, Ward Silver wrote a great book, Grounding and Bonding for the Radio Amateur. And that book is something you should have in your library. And then I have strap connections to the single point ground panel that go down to the ground rods, which are in the floor. And here's some more of the connections to the single point ground panel. And it's very easy to do, and it doesn't cost a lot. You can actually use copper pipe if you want. Here is this showing the copper pipe on an RF ground plane, which is some aluminum, and the radio is sitting on top of the aluminum, and the aluminum is connected to the RF ground plane, and then the RF ground plane and the copper tube are all connected to the single point ground panel. And you bond this to the station ground. And here's, these are copper plates that we have at DX Engineering where the radio is placed on top. And again, what we're trying to do is equalize the voltages through all the components of the ham radio station. And here's how it connects in.
Oh, I just had Skype die out for a second. Hold on. Don't know what happened. I'm joining back in. Wow, now I'm having a trouble. Here, hold on. Sorry, guys.
Tin copper braid.
Hey,
And
Tim, for 1 second, repeat what you said in the last 15 seconds. I dropped out there for a second.
okay, so the radio is placed on top of the copper RF ground plane plate. And you can see here the Icom IC7851 on top. And then underneath, you can see the connection that goes to the radio itself, and then the connection that goes back to the single point ground panel. And remember that tin copper braid is only to be used inside. This will wick water outside, so you only can use this inside. And RG400 is my favorite connecting cable. It's double shielded Teflon. It can handle 1500 watts, and it's high isolation. And these are DX Engineering cables that have the heat shrink with glue underneath it to really make the cables stand up. And so here is that high quality RG400. It's aircraft grade cable and with good quality connectors. And when you're thinking about ferrite to keep noise down in your shack, or maybe to tame that LED light that is causing some interference outside, DX Engineering has color-coded ferrite cores. And the blue ones are the number 31 ones. And those are the most popular ones for HF. But so many times when you would buy ferrite cores in the past, you didn't know what mix they were. And so we've taken that out and actually color-coded the ferrite. And all my AC line cords have number 31 ferrite. Again, trying to make sure that there's no RF getting into the AC power system. 12-volt cables with the ferrite. Again, trying to make sure that everything that is in the shack with wires can be an antenna. And we don't want that. We don't want antennas in the shack. And making sure that computer power also doesn't provide any interference or accept any interference. And a lot of guys in their shacks have trouble with their switch or their computer generating birdies. And the ISO Plus that we have at DX Engineering settles all those birdies down as a result of your Cat5 or Cat6 network. And this is a prototype of the ISO Plus. The product is really nice. It's in a much nicer case, but this was early ISO Plus, and they're all over the place at K3LR to keep the switches and all the computer gear quiet for no birdies. And when you're thinking about winterizing your station and your antenna systems, you got to really be concerned about your coax connectors. And here's a picture of a coax connector where water got inside the connector. And then when you put power to it, Amanda, it's a bad thing, because then it burns up. And so this is what happens when you got to keep the water out of your connectors.
Wow, big difference.
Yes, big difference. You see the clean connector there on the right, and it just water inside connectors, and then you put power in there, and it's a disaster. And how about old coax? Old coax is not good. Even if you think that there's no water in it, over time, coax outside goes bad. It just does. And so you want to replace your coax. I replace it every 7 or 8 years. It's just good engineering practice to make sure that you're not losing signal by having coax that is going bad. And look what happens when water gets into coax. That bright copper shield turns black. And also, we found that the rotation loops around the rotators, those can go bad because they're always sitting there moving in the wind. And after years and years of that, the coax shields will break at the rotation loop. And SO239s that look like this is bad news. So you got to replace those with new ones. I visited a shack once. I'm not going to say where it is. And look at these shields. They're just jammed into the back of the connector. No solder, no nothing. Just jammed into the back. And that is a problem. That will create all sorts of trouble for your radio, for your amplifier, on receive, on transmit. You have to solder the shields. And this is a very nice, easy method to solder shields on the back of the body of a PL259. Silver-plated PL259, you can take the shield, put it over the back, and solder it, and you won't melt the dielectric. That's one of the great things. So if you don't want to try to solder through the holes, just solder over the back. And my favorite PL259 is the Amphenol 831SP. You don't want to use those Hamfest specials. They might be undersized. The tolerances are not good. You can get arcing. It amazes me that some hams will spend thousands of dollars on radios and amplifiers and antennas, but then they get really cheap about buying Hamfest special connectors that are not going to work very well. And so I think it's very good. It's a very good investment to buy the best connectors you can find. And you really do have to make sure everything is tight. And before the snow flies, it's time to go out with the channel lock pliers. We sell these at DX Engineering, and they're available at other places too. They're not very expensive, but you want to make sure that all your connectors are tight. Loose connections will be a problem. And we just recently started carrying these self-solder butt splices, and they do a really nice job because it's low temperature solder, so that if you have two wires you want to put together, you have the heat shrink and you have the soldering, and it's just beautiful. And last thing I want to talk about is we've recently had several customers that were having trouble because of when they rotate with the bearing, they were hearing a lot of noise in their receiver. And it turns out you have to bypass your bearings to reduce RFI. And so we have a bypass bearing kit at DX Engineering, and that can take care of the noise, and then you don't have to worry about it again. And so I'm going to stop sharing, and hopefully that's looking okay, Amanda.
Absolutely. I have questions myself. This bearing noise, was it just like so powerful it would knock out signals as they're moving?
Yes. Yeah.
Really?
It can. You know, when you're moving around, and the issue is you've got stainless steel ball bearings, and you've got aluminum, you've got dissimilar metals, and that's where the rectification comes in. And that's
very
what makes
interesting.
the noise.
Huh. I'd like to hear it sometimes digitally or something, because I don't think I've ever heard that on my rig when moving, but now I want to find out. Have you?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. Now that's a good question too, Tim. Depending on how you have the mast through the thrust bearing, does that matter as much too? Like some people will just, depending on the size of their antenna, they'll just drop the mast directly on the rotor and let the weight sit there versus suspended on the thrust bearing. I'm assuming that has an effect.
It can have an effect, but you know, really, the old thrust bearings were not even designed to handle loads. They were just designed to keep the mast in the middle.
Right.
You know, and because the old Roan bearings, if you would try to put much of a load on them, they would crack. And I did that once here. So the DX Engineering bearing is designed to actually take loads. So we can take the weight off of the rotator with the DX Engineering bearing. But there's still dissimilar metals there, Josh, and that's where you get into trouble.
Mm-hmm.
And Josh has another kind of personal question about the towers and placement.
I do, but let me ask my another one I thought of.
Yes.
Do you have a certain number of wraps that you do through your toroids, depending on if you're doing your power connector or you're doing your coax? Is there a magic thing you use, or is it just how many you can get through there?
Well, I like to get 7 or 8 turns. That's really a good compromise number for what you can get on there and the common mode impedance that will be developed as a result.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So I did have a question that came in, and I it was sent to me in email. It actually came in on my podcast, and I really didn't. I don't have a tower, particularly one with multiple antennas on it, so I wanted to make sure I asked the right person. And Tim, you're the right person, so I'll read it, and then you can tell me your thoughts. Barry writes, I have a ham radio question. I currently have a 60-foot tower with a Mosley Classic 33 tri-bander, a Cushcraft 5-element 6-meter beam. Then on top, a 10-foot mast. I have a 10-element 2-meter beam with a 2-meter 440 vertical on the very top. I'm thinking about removing the 2-meter beam because he rarely uses it, moving the 6-meter to where the 2-meter used to be, and then installing a 12-17 beam where the 6 beam is now. And it would be sandwiched between the tri-bander and the 6-meter beam with about 5 foot of separation from each antenna. Do you think that would work well enough to make it worthwhile?
5 feet is probably the minimum distance, Josh, in that stack. But the other thing is on the DX Engineering website, we have a mast load estimator. So I would suggest that he goes and puts those the loads at the various heights to make sure that he won't overload the mast and bend the mast.
Sure.
So we don't want that to happen. So it's right on the homepage at dxengineering.com, the mast load estimator. But the 5 foot spacing between the tri-bander, the dual bander for the work bands, and then the 6-meter beam, he should be okay.
Okay, so 5 feet is, you say, that's the least. More
That's
would be a bit
minimum.
better. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Well, very good. What? Oh, you know what? Here's the other one that I always get questioned on. How far, right? If you're going to your AC service ground or you're going to a ground rod for your shack, what's about the furthest you can go before you start running into trouble? And is there something you can do to lengthen that so that you've got a good, safe connection to ground?
Well, the first thing is you want to use the right materials. I like to use at least number 4 wire or larger. I use number 2 here to go from the single point ground connections to the ground rods. And then all the ground rods that you have outside or ground rod for your shack, you want to make sure that that is connected in with the AC ground as well, so that everything is at the same potential. And it's best to have an electrician do that work. When you're in the breaker box, you want to make sure that you don't violate any of the local electrical codes. And so it's always best to use a licensed electrician. And you want your connections as short as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Grounding is really all about taking care of lightning and making sure that the voltage stays stable between all your equipment and your breaker box, and then, of course, out to the power transformer.
Okay, very good. Oh, that was very helpful. Thank you very much, Tim. I appreciate that. Did we have any other questions in the chat there?
Yeah, we always have some questions. Tim's been talking a lot about on tower stuff and your connectors. What about your balance and things like that? Anything going bad there that we might need to replace after years of hanging up in their trees?
Yeah, you have to. It really is best to take those things down and inspect them, open them up, make sure they're not full of water, something like that. You've got to have weep holes in any of your balance, and make sure that the connections are still good. So that is a great idea, Amanda, to do a good inspection of balance.
And a couple other just troubleshooting in general, which will happen at any point in time. But again, with the beams and you're moving this noise thing, we get some SWR when we're rotating on like 10 and 15 and things like that. And we've always wondered if it's just bad cable. And you never know, and so you have to climb up there and replace it. But those are things that could happen that are probably your cable. Wouldn't that be correct?
Yes, it could be the cable. It can be nearby objects too, that if the SWR is low when you're pointed east, but it comes up higher when it's pointed south. If you have metallic guy cables, those can interact as well.
That's interesting to know as well. So it's contest time. around here, right? You
Yes.
guys are open for business. You guys are going to be contesting full force, aren't you, out of K3LR?
Yeah, the team will be back here in a few weeks, and so we're looking forward to that. And everybody is just itching to get back together and to have some fun on the radio. And you know, Amanda, we're starting to see some sunspots now out of the new cycle. And I know Dr. T will talk more about that, but 15 meters has been great. It is definitely on its way back. And I even heard lots of South American stations on 10 meters today. So we're really excited about the upcoming contest season.
I am too. I'm really looking forward to it. I need my amplifier to cooperate a little bit more. We're having some issues with it, but I am really looking forward to. If there's anything to look forward to in fall time while it's getting cold, is to get inside by your warm transmitters. That's for sure. Well, I did. Josh, did you see any other questions in chat?
Yeah, there was a couple. So Scott K0WAV asks, Tim, does DX Engineering sell the CAD welds for affixing bonding grounding wires to ground rods?
Yes, and Josh, that is a great question because so many times, you use those acorn clamps and they don't stay tight
Yeah.
and they get corroded. The best way, and the way I do it here at K3LR, is the exothermic welds, and known as CAD welding. And we do have them. We call it the one shot. So it has the mold and all the material, and it's real easy to use and really works well. So take a look for the CAD weld one shots.
Very good. Now, my wife asked a question which scares me because I don't know where she's going with it. She says, what does Tim use as part of his contesting rig? And then I asked to clarify, like radios, and she says yes. What does Tim use to contest with?
So the radios that we have here, we have 11 operating positions, and it's the Icom IC7851, except for on 20 meters, and that's a little special, and that's the IC7850. So that's the gold one.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, the 7851, which is, Josh, is the best radio I've ever used. Ergonomically, it is fantastic. The specs are really good. The receiver is tremendous. And we've had them here for about 6 years now. And Josh, through hundreds of thousands of QSOs and 48-hour weekends, they have never broken. Not one of them. So it's just very, very reliable radio.
So
wow, you never had to replace the finals or anything?
Nope. No finals,
goodness.
No trips back to Ray's Hospital, none. No, it's really, they've been super solid. And when you've got, all these antennas and all these operators here, you can't afford to have downtime.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead.
No, you can't.
I'm going to bring the DX Engineering website up on that one so Leia can make sure she gets it for the Christmas list for
There
me.
you go.
Definitely add that to the Christmas list, honey.
Don't put that right in the cart right now.
Yeah, let me just go ahead and click that little add to cart button and just make that easy for her.
She just passed out.
I think she did. Somebody did have a question. Somebody said CAD welds are the bomb, so that's very good. William has a good question. Tim, do you use drones for antenna inspection?
Yes, we sure do. And if you go to the K3LR website and you click down in the lower left on videos, we have lots of drone videos there. So great. I was showing drone video last night to one of the clubs that I was talking to. And we do a lot of inspections with those.
And we have another question coming in is, can you shrink wrap number 4 copper braided wire for ground connecting ground rods? I live in Minnesota and fall is upon us.
Shrink wrap. For shipping or for installations? I'm not.
It sounded like
installation, but
installation.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could put heat shrink on the number 4 if you want. Sure.
All right.
Okay.
Well, I do want to show really fast. I did pull up the website. So there is the video library down at the bottom. Just make sure you go to that. And I also found the cool mass load estimator that Tim mentioned.
Yeah.
So, yeah, make sure you use that. That's really important for wind load, making sure that you got the right equipment to hold that very probably expensive antenna that you're putting up, right?
Yeah, and there's nothing worse than having a mast that bends at the top of the tower. Think about, Josh, how big of a problem that would be to get down.
Oh yeah, because it's not going to slide correctly either, right? Because if that
No.
mast is all bent, you're going to need something to kind of pull it out almost.
Oh, it is just a disaster. So you want to make sure that you don't overload the mast. And if you need, a bigger mast, I know a good place to get them.
Indeed, indeed.
Well, I just have to say, I have to plug you guys, DX Engineering here. Our Fremont County is the county that I live in Colorado, and our EOC got this wonderful grant to put amateur radio equipment into the EOC, along with some microwave equipment for getting on the backbone of amateur radio, and giving us some extra support in case of internet outages and stuff. And I called Tim's guys, like, not knowing what I wanted to put in the EOC. Needed something for digital, be able to do WinLink capabilities, and Tim's guys put in a lot of time. And Tim, I'd just like to thank you so much. Your people are great, and they sent me a list of everything I needed for equipment, and we went over the budget and what we needed for the grant. And this has been 2 years in the workings, and we finally got it all purchased. So we're so excited to get it installed, Tim. I'd love to make a contact over that away with our first contact out of the EOC. So thanks again. You guys rock.
Well, thanks so much, Amanda. We love helping people. And we have a saying at DX Engineering, we're all Elmers. And it's really true. We all got started once upon a time, and we didn't have all the answers. And we asked a lot of questions. And that is, we are so happy when somebody comes to us and says, here's what I want to do. Can you help me? And we'll do whatever it takes. The guys are not commissioned, so they'll take as much time as it takes and bend over backwards. So
it's absolutely wonderful. I mean, they thought of the connectors, like, don't forget, you need 4 of these, and they just put that stuff on the list because, of course, I would have forgotten them, and you'd be in big trouble if you're going to put up your stuff. So, all right, Tim, well, thank you so much for joining us this evening. I know you got another meeting you got to step out for, but come back anytime, and we appreciate all the helpful hints.
All right, Amanda, thanks for having me on. And if we can do anything to help you, just send us an email here at DX Engineering or give us a call. And thanks again, Josh. And
Absolutely.
See you later,
Thanks,
Don.
Tim. Thanks for the info.
All right.
Take care, Tim. See ya.
I'm going to go back a second because we got Don now, and I skipped over him because I had a problem with my Skype, so I apologize, everybody. Don, how are you doing?
I'm good. I've been messaging Tamitha Scove on Twitter, as you can see. We were trying to get her on live tonight. She has rebooted her computer 3 times because of a Skype update, and now she has got seriously bad computer issues. Her computer won't even boot. She thinks it's a boot sector failure.
Oh, that's not good.
Yeah, so we were going to try to have her on live tonight. We do have her recorded report, thankfully, but we were going to try to have her on live for the big solar storm. It was a direct hit. And I'll echo what Tim was saying about the bands being open. I turned my HF radio on for the first time in a while today, and 20 meters is like my waterfall looked like those 14ers that Amanda always talks about in Colorado. I mean, it was just huge peaks on the waterfall over there. And then I went over to 20, and 20 was hopping too. I didn't hear anything on 10 though.
Mm-hmm.
It was getting a little bit later on in the afternoon. But yeah, man, 20 was. I mean, I have not heard 20 that loud, and I can't remember how long. People were like 20 over on 20.
Yeah,
just casual
nice.
conversations all across. So, yeah, it's been pretty wild. So we will have Dr. T's recorded a report right after Newsline tonight.
Well, speaking of the propagation and stuff, did anyone listen to like the radio blackout on Monday when it was supposed to hit? I wasn't around to listen.
I was working, so I didn't know.
Around what time was it?
I think it was supposed to hit in the early afternoon of Monday.
Oh, then I definitely missed that.
so.
But
Yeah.
I remember
Tell us
hearing
if
one-
you heard it.
I remember hearing audio recordings of one from a couple of years ago, and it was like somebody just turned off the faucet. I mean, it's just like it went like, no, it just went what, just like that.
That's pretty much what happens. It just one minute everyone's there, and then the next they're all gone.
That's
so
crazy.
It is crazy.
I was on 15 over this weekend. Now, I was very surprised at how well 15 was working this weekend. So, yeah, Tim was definitely right on that. I made a contact with somebody that I can't normally hear them when they do Parks on the Air, and he came right out. It was Mike K at MRD on YouTube. And, yeah, 15 was sounding wonderful. So
damn, I didn't even think I never even think to listen to 15 anymore because I just always assume that it's dead.
Yeah, me too. And then I hop in there and I see a bunch of people talking, and it was, no lower noise floor for me on 15 at home here, and it was great. So I'm definitely going to be adding that to the list of bands to check out. So for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we've got a word from Icom.
Yeah, thank you.
Icom has the base station of your dreams with the IC7851, IC7610, IC9700, and IC7300 SDR transceivers. Icom's amateur radios are top of the line and are the first choice for contesters across the globe. Robust base stations like these cut through pileups, letting you work the bands and record those contacts. Stay connected remotely with the RSBA One app and keep your competitive contesting edge with Icom. Heard it, worked it, logged it. The IC7851 gives you a new window into the RF world and is HF excellence unparalleled. With faster processors, high input gain, high display resolution, and a cleaner signal, it's truly the pinnacle of HF perfection. Dual receivers, digital IF filters, memory keyer, digital voice recorder, high-resolution Spectrum waterfall display, enhanced PC connectivity, and SD memory card slot. The Icom IC7610 is the SDR every ham wants. This high-performance SDR can pick out the faintest of signals even in the presence of stronger adjacent signals. The IC7610 is a direct sampling software-defined radio that will change the world's definition of an SDR transceiver. RF direct sampling system, 110 dB RMDR, independent dual receivers, and dual digicell. Create your own band opening with the IC9700. This transceiver brings direct sampling to the UHF-VHF weak signal world. This all-mode transceiver is loaded with innovative features that are sure to keep you busy: faster processors, higher input gain, higher display resolution, and a cleaner signal. 4.3-inch color touchscreen display, real-time high-speed spectrum scope and waterfall display, smooth satellite operation with 99 satellite channels, dual watch operation, and full duplex operation in satellite mode. The Icom IC7300 changed the way entry-level HF is designed. This high-performance, innovative HF transceiver with a compact design will far exceed your expectations. RF direct sampling, 15 discrete bandpass filters, large 4.3-inch color touchscreen, real-time spectrum scope, and SD memory card slot. Visit icomamerica.com/amateur for more information on all the great Icom radios.
And thanks again to Icom. That's the wrong page. I know how to do this, right? All right, so thanks again to Icom. We really do appreciate it for sponsoring Ham Nation. Now, last month, if you remember, we actually had 3 episodes. That means that they actually did a second set of swag giveaways. So I want to make sure I hit everybody because we've got technically 2 rounds of giveaways. And to get in on that giveaway, you just go to icomamerica.com/hamnation. The link is in the video description. It'll take you right to it. And that'll enter you into the swag giveaway. They give away swag every time there is a Ham Nation episode, so I'm catching up on those giveaways right now. Sharon B, K7EO1, Philip P, AC9YC, Gary, KO4F, Sharon, K7E, it's K7EO1 again for the swag, because I'm going to mention that in a second. Hold on, I've got something to say. Anthony, WRNX921, Austin, KI5POL, and Anthony, KX3C. So the winners from the swag giveaways go into the grand prize giveaway, and the grand prize for October, which is that ID51A, is Sharon B. So Sharon B, K7EO, you won the 7100 there. The entry is free. Just go to the link in the description and you can join in on the swag giveaway. Swag is a term we've used. It's called Stuff We All Get. I realize this is more of a giveaway for Icom gear. I don't know. It's something in my head from going to all the ham fests and stuff like that. So anyway, thanks again to Icom. We really appreciate it. And now we're going to throw to Dawn, back to Dawn again, and we'll hear from Amateur Radio Newsline.
There you go. Yep. And we will hear from Dr. T as well. Her report this week was recorded on Monday, just as a solar storm hit. And she wanted me to remind you that she did an informal solar storm forecast update live yesterday on YouTube. It is a deep dive, and it's about 45 minutes long. And she says it's more about how the G2 storm unfolded and its aftermath, along with what's next. So that will be good stuff on YouTube. And you need to go check that out. But first, we'll have Dr. T's solar report right after this from Amateur Radio Newsline. From Amateur Radio Newsline report, number 2293, this is Ham Nation headlines for Wednesday, October 13th, 2021. We begin with a report of a development that spells good news for de-expeditioners and chasers. At long last, a new call sign prefix has evolved out of a long simmering issue over licensed operations in the former Falkland Island dependencies.
Ofcom, the communications regulator in the UK, has agreed to the use of a new prefix for the former Falkland Island dependencies, which had been mistakenly omitted from the Falkland Island Communications Ordinance in 2017. The prefix Victor Papa Zero, VP0, has been assigned to these territories, and the Falkland Islands Communications Regulator, which was part of the discussions with Ofcom, is to administer these licenses on behalf of the governments of the British Antarctic Territory and South Georgia and South Sandwich Islands. The prefix will also apply to the British sector of the Antarctic mainland, including the Antarctic Peninsula and nearby islands, as well as the South Orkney and South Shetland Islands. This brings welcome news to de-expeditioners and others who have been unable to use VP8 licenses in these former dependencies for years. For Amateur Radio Newsline, I'm Jim Meechan, ZL2BHF.
Few things are outside the realm of possibility with amateur radio, as a group of deaf students in the UK is about to learn in an ARIS QSO with an American astronaut.
American astronaut Mark Vander Hey, KG5GNP, is scheduled to complete a unique amateur radio contact from the ISS with students at Mary Hare School for Deaf Children in Berkshire, England. Kieran Morgan, M0XTD, the UK's ARIS operations lead, told Newsline that the event will proceed like a standard ARIS contact for the astronaut, but students and school volunteers will have access to a stenographer using a device that projects what is being said onto a large screen in their auditorium. Kieran added that the text will also appear on a live web stream, which will also feature a sign language interpreter. Meanwhile, hams from the Newbury and District Amateur Radio Society have been assisting the students by providing lessons on amateur radio. The school noted on its blog, quote, "These will be the first deaf children to have done this, making it a world first," unquote. While some of the students will be linked to the action by a web feed, others will be in the auditorium itself as socially distanced spectators. It's scheduled to take place sometime during the week of October the 10th. For Amateur Radio Newsline, I'm Jeremy Boot, G4NJH.
In the UK, it's almost back to business as usual for amateur radio exams, but there are a few changes in the works. Once again, here's Jeremy Boot, G4NJH.
Face-to-face amateur radio exams are making a comeback now that pandemic restrictions are easing after 18 months. Exams via remote invigilation and training by distance learning sessions are giving way to in-person club meetings and training for those who choose it. The Radio Society of Great Britain has announced that starting on the 1st of November, clubs will be able to use a new online booking system for candidates' paper-based exams. The same booking system is already in use for online exams as at the 6th of October. There are plans, however, to phase out the paper exams eventually. Meanwhile, candidates planning to take the foundation exams going forward will no longer be required to complete a practical test, according to the RSGB Examination Standards Committee. The tests had in any case been suspended during the 18-month pandemic restriction period, but clubs are still encouraged to include a practical component in their candidate training. For Amateur Radio Newsline, I'm Jeremy Boot, G4NJH.
And that's all from the Amateur Radio Newsline, your independent source for amateur radio news for 4 decades and counting at arnewsline.org. With Jim Meechan, ZL2BHF, Jeremy Boot, G4NJH, Karen Eve Murray, KD2GUT at the news desk in New York, and our news team across the globe. I'm Don Wellbanks, AE5DW, 7-3. We'll see you next time here on Ham Nation. Now here's the solar update from Dr. Tamitha Skov, WX6SWW.
We have a big flare player on the Earth-facing disk and an Earth-directed solar storm. Those stories and more in the news this week. Space weather this week is definitely keeping us on our toes. As we take a look at our Earth-facing disk, you can see the big flare player up there in the north. This is region 2882, and you can see it firing a couple small solar flares right around the 8th, and then wham, right there late on the 8th, it fires an M1.6 class flare along with an Earth-directed solar storm, and we'll talk more about that in a minute. It also causes a couple other solar storms to be launched shortly there later. None of them look like they're really Earth-directed, but we are keeping an eye on this region because it continues to be a big flare player. On top of that, it's also launched a radiation storm, pretty small, but it has those radiation levels a little bit elevated right now. We're going to be watching that over the next couple days. Now, on top of that, we also have a small coronal hole that is going to be rotating into the Earth strike zone here in the next 3 days or so. So we're going to kind of get a 1-2 punch. We're going to get that Earth-directed solar storm, and then we're going to get some fast wind as a chaser. So we definitely have some decent chances for storming and aurora. Now, as we take a look at our far-sighted sun, this is stereo A, and it's taking a look at the sun just a little bit from the side. You can see back on the 8th, region 2882, wham, as it fires that solar storm. That's the one that's Earth-directed. And now behind it, we also have a few bright regions in the south and one that's rotating into stereo's view in the north. These regions are not really all that active as far as we can tell, but they will help to keep that solar flux boosted. So amateur radio operators and emergency responders continue to expect marginal radio propagation on Earth's day side over the next few days. And of course, when that solar storm hits, expect some issues on Earth's night side. Now, switching to coronagraphs, this is the LASCO coronagraph aboard the SOHO spacecraft, and the view is from Earth. This side has the intensity, the raw images, and this side has the difference images that enhance the features. And when we take a look at the difference imagery, you can see early on the 9th, wham, right there. Do you see that big ring going around the sun? Well, that is the solar storm that was launched during that M1.6 class flare, and that big full ring around the sun tells you that that thing is Earth-directed. And this one's fast too, which means it's going to pack a bit of a punch. So we could have some decent chances for aurora over the next couple days. Now, switching to our prediction models, Enlil. Now, this is NOAA's version of the model. The top panel's density, the bottom panel's velocity, and you're looking down at the sun from the North Pole with Earth being off to the right. And as you watch that solar storm being launched, you can see it's coming directly towards Earth. In fact, NOAA has their prediction of the hit of this solar storm to be about midday on the 11th. And when we take a look at the velocity, which is the speed of the storm coming out, it's actually quite a fast solar storm. So we are anticipating aurora to come down to mid-latitudes. We could see a decent show from this one. And then, of course, we have that fast wind stream coming after it. So it's going to be kind of like a 1-2 punch from that perspective. Now, when we switch to NASA's version of the model, now it's a little bit different, but not too much different. Their prediction, again, you're looking down at the sun from the North Pole with Earth being off to the right. Again, their impact time is showing midday on the 11th. So this is good news that we're having a consensus, and it's also showing it being a direct hit. Now, as we switch over to the Met Office in the UK, the Moswak's version of Enlil, well, their version is also showing a direct hit, but they're showing it impacting just a little bit earlier, about mid-morning on the 11th. So aurora photographers, get your batteries charged and be ready for a bit of a show, starting maybe possibly early on the 11th, but definitely by midday or even late day, we should be well into a nice solar storm. So all eyes are on region 28 82 this week as it continues to be a big flare player with potential for radio blackouts. So amateur radio operators, you're going to have to kind of stay vigilant. You're going to have a little bit more noise on the bands this week, and you're going to potentially have more radio blackouts. So, you know, on top of your just marginal radio propagation, you could see some issues. Of course, when that solar storm hits, you'll see issues there as well on Earth's night side. And speaking of that solar storm, we do have that Earth-directed solar storm that could pack a bit of a punch. So aurora photographers, definitely keep your batteries charged, because we could have a chance for aurora even down into mid-latitudes starting maybe early on the 11th, but definitely by midday we should have a better feel for what the solar storm is doing, and we could see a bit more aurora activity at the trailing end of the storm, especially just because of the way it might be configured. But then also after that we have some fast wind as a chaser, so aurora views could be sporadic even through, you know, nearing the end of the week. So this could be a really nice chance to catch some decent aurora shots if you haven't had a chance yet. And now you GPS users, well, you know, we do have a big flare player on the Earth-facing disk, and now we're going to have a solar storm on Earth's night side here in the next few days. So GPS reception is going to be a little bit compromised, especially if you're near dawn or dusk. Definitely stay vigilant because of those radio blackouts. And also on Earth's night side, anywhere near aurora, that's a problem for you too. So, you know, you're just going to have to ride this one out, and hopefully next week will be better. I'm Tamitha Skov, the Space Weather Woman. Thank you for watching.
You know, to say that we're fortunate to have Dr. Tamitha Skov as part of Newsline and Ham Nation is the understatement of the century. She's amazing. She's the science editor for Amateur Radio Newsline, and of course, we bring you her reports every week. And those are edited reports. You go check out her website, spaceweatherwoman.com. Always check out her Twitter feed as well. And her YouTube channel, Tamitha Skov. Her Twitter feed, by the way, is at Tamitha Skov, and the YouTube channel is just simply Tamitha Skov. And you can see her unedited reports when she posts them. And again, make sure you check out that 45-minute informal deep dive into this G2 solar storm that we've been having. And she's going to go into what's next and how it all unfolded, and just an incredible asset. And also the fact that she's licensed. She's one of us. She is invested in this hobby enough to go out and get her call sign, WX6SWW. She doesn't get to operate very much, but she is vested in this hobby, and we just appreciate her so much. And she's an amazing teacher. She's like Gordon West, kind of, in my opinion anyway. She's able to distill fairly highly technical stuff like Gordon does with amateur radio and make sure that everyone can understand it. She does the same thing with the solar stuff to where even a moron like me can understand it, Amanda.
I think she's even cooler than that. I mean, she showed up to her local field day this last summer.
Yeah.
And wanted to check it out. So yeah. Kudos to her, because she knows that people are going to kind of swarm her for more information, and you're so smart and pretty.
Yeah.
She really is gorgeous.
Yeah.
But she's just like really down to earth, like, I'm just here for information too. So you show me yours, I'll show you mine.
Yeah.
That's a weird way of saying it, but it's true.
Tim Duffy pegged her to be one of the professors at the DX University stuff, Contest University, a couple of times. So she's not been licensed very long, but she has hit the ground running. And like I said, we're just to have an asset like her the hobby is just so much better because she's in it.
Absolutely. And
thanks, Dr. T.
Yes, thank you, Dr. T, so much, and very passionate. The whams, bam, 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 and
Love it.
So, speaking of passion, there's a huge ham fest that usually takes place, before pandemic stuff. And PacificCon is actually going on again. And that's why you guys didn't see Gordo this week. Josh is going to show us a little preview. If you're around the area, make sure you get your tickets and go check it out. Randy, K7AGE, another one of us, is going to be a guest speaker. I'm guessing, I don't know what he's talking about. Is he talking about FT8 operations? I don't know. And of course, Gordo always has a great presentation, and I think he's going to have a booth there this year.
And Breakfast with Gordo.
Breakfast with Gordo. Oh, and he does fantastic presentations in those get-togethers. So be able to be sure to check it out if you're in the area. And I bet there's going to be some other star-studded appearances there. I bet maybe even Amy and Jerry might show up there. So I haven't seen it on Twitter yet, but they might show. Next thing, before I get to my little presentation here, we had a few more questions about where people could find their certs for working Ham Nation during the 500 episodes. I can't believe that. And we're at 505 now. Anyhow, Josh is going to show you once again the link that you can go to. You do this little certificate search. And I can't see that box. I don't have my glasses on. I'm sorry.
I'll pull it up larger. Here we go. Boom. But you search your call sign, and then you'll get you'll get a certificate. And hey, that's the one I earned because I worked at least Randy K7AGE for sure. So there you go. That's how you get it. And the link will be in the description for how you get that.
All right. Here's another way you can get it. I posted the link because I know that not everybody does it. Not everybody does Facebook. There are a lot of people who don't necessarily like Facebook for whatever reason, and that's fine. Go to my QRZ page. Just look up Alpha Echo 5 Delta Whiskey on my QRZ page, and there will be the link to the certificate. So very easy. Everybody can get to QRZ. Just look me up, AE5DW on QRZ, and you will find the link to the download page right there.
Very good. All right, I'm going to share my screen here, and I'm going to give you guys a lesson on how to plan your Aries events using ICS forms. Could be a little boring for some that aren't into Aries, but I'm telling you right now, this is the only way to plan a function, and everyone should be using this. And the reason I want to talk about this is because everyone hears that you need to have ICS 100, 200, 700, 800 to be part of Aries. A lot of you have been hearing that recently, I'm sure, in all of your Aries districts. Well, that doesn't teach you a thing about actually implementing the incident command system, right? So this is why I just like to go over this occasionally, and it will show you how to actually find. Well, actually, I didn't tell you how to find these forms, but I could put a link in the doc maybe. But I use ICS forms and plan out a hopefully uneventful event, and that it goes smoothly and very organized. So I'm doing a 50-mile and 25-mile bike ride this weekend that I'm coordinating. So this is just my incident action plan for it, and this is my cover. I do a nice little cover, take their little logo and say I'm supported by Colorado Aries and what counties we're in. And then we move right on to it. And that brings you to your first forms, ICS 201. And what does it want? It wants kind of a sketch, a layout of the map. So if this was a wildfire, this would be the perimeter of the wildfire. For us, it's going to be the course map. And this wants your situation, your summary, and your health and your safety briefing. This is all, I can't put it any other way except for to say it's kind of blah, blah stuff, but it is important to have this information. So you can see, so like I have it in bold type, everyone must sign the Fremont Adventure Recreation waiver to participate. So they want every single volunteer that shows up to sign this waiver to say that you're not going to hold them responsible for your life. That's obviously very important to your served agency or whatever public safety event you're doing. And if you join in a parade, they're going to want you to sign this waiver. So anyhow, just it gives you the briefing. We're supporting a 50 and 25-mile bike ride. Perfect. So then we move on. So the second form of the 201 is kind of the layout. And a lot of people never know what to put in these. And so I just put our team briefing, when everyone departs the briefing to head to their assigned positions. I put when we're going to do radio comm checks, and then I put when the race starts. The other thing I kind of like to put in there is, so everyone can expect to see the first person by their checkpoint is the first person's going to be through the whole loop in an hour. So once you know where you are on the course, you're going to know when you should expect to see those first riders kind of thing. And then I put in the pertinent cutoff times for the last rider in, last possible time a rider will come in. So it tells you how long you could possibly be there all day, which will be there all day. I guarantee it. So that's your intro to this. And then the objectives. And you look at, oh God, what are objectives? What are we doing? So this is where you have to plan out a little bit more. What are your real objectives? To announce when the first rider comes by your location. So you put that in there. Other priorities, maybe to look for people in distress or somebody that has a broken bike. They need SAG support. They need medical support. Those kind of things. Here in Colorado, we have cactus everywhere on these courses and on these trails. It's a mountain bike trail. So it's dirt and it's crazy and rocky and jumpy. So I require all of my operators to carry tweezers with them. So that's in this objectives. Have a pair of tweezers for cactus removal.
Well, that's smart.
And it's been used more than once, let me tell you. So the other thing I put in the objectives is just your little HIPAA announcement, which everyone already knows, but never give personal information over the air when announcing an injury or emergency, only age, gender, and seriousness of injury, unless asked for more information. But that's all you want to put on ham radio anyways, right? You don't, we've had some close calls where, a fiance is nearby wondering where her boyfriend is and we can't say. So with a dehydrated individual or something. And of course, every time you put in these objectives, it's always about safety. And if you watch this in a wildfire or flooding event or the aftermath of a hurricane, safety, 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 safety. Always have your high-vis vests. Always, it's your personal safety first before anybody else's. So we want to follow suit with that, because what I plan on doing, I always give these to my local law enforcement. So this is off-road, but there are roads that go through this. So I want my Colorado State Patrol to have this in their hands so they know what our action plan is. So they already know who's on scene. If something worse were to happen, a car versus bike accident, they already know what's going on. So you got to keep it professional. So then we go down to the next block there, the operational period command emphasis. Again, this is just how we're going to operate on the radio, what we're going to say. I kind of just put in there KISS method. Keep it simple, stupid. Not 40 words when you can use 12 to make your statement. And again, I'd say wear your safety vest. General situational awareness. You shouldn't be in areas if you don't know what your situational awareness is, but I do put things in there. It's going to be cold in the morning because it's Colorado, so it's going to be 32 degrees out, and by the afternoon it's going to be 68 and you're going to be sweating. So I put those things in there. Rattlesnakes are a possibility. Wildlife for sure, bears, I always mention all of that. So these forms are, if you're going to put together an Aries event, I'm showing you the ones that you absolutely need to use. So this is our communications list, and I use this as our assignment list. And it works out perfectly for that. So and I know this is probably a little small for everyone, but it says incident assigned position. I also use that as the tactical call of who I'm assigning at that position. So you see net control, you see aid station 1, aid station 2, campground, Alta Vista. So those are all of my points. Those are their assignments, but that's also what they're going to use as their tactical. Everyone knows about tacticals, right? So tactical calls in, call signs out. So pretty understandable. And of course, I blocked out our phone numbers there, so you won't all call us. Thank you.
Yes.
Here's the big one, obviously, is our 205. That's what everyone's always like, send me the 205. I need the 205. Well, That is very, very important. But dang, it's not the most important thing in this IAP. You should be able to program your radio on the fly if you show up and you realize that you don't have the tone right, things like that. Be very familiar with your radio. Don't bring a new one to an event because it usually leads to trouble. Bring those extra batteries as well.
But Amanda, if I bring a new one, you'll program it for me, right? Live the day of? You'll do all the programming of radios?
No. It is very tough on any kind of coordinator, and you might have to find a buddy, but no one is familiar with your HT compared to their HT.
Mm-hmm.
The Icom is definitely different than that Kenwood, and we're not familiar, and it's not going to be easy for us to find that tone input or the squelch or many other things. So, or even how to take it off a scan sometimes. By the way, don't scan when you're in an Aries event. Just please don't do it.
Yes.
Expert tip right there. So this is kind of our situation. We always have a primary, a secondary, a simplex, and then we like to have our back channels where you can yell about other things. So we usually do a digital. We don't have any D-Star in the area, so we can't do that, but we use a P25 or DMR, where that's where you're like, okay, so this jerk off is trying to run all the bikes off the road. I'm sorry, I'm being very blunt here, but it's true. It's true. That's where you have that conversation. You don't want that on your command channel, right? Because I could be next to event coordinators and they don't need to hear that, but somebody could be saying that in the background, and that's where you get better information sometimes than on the command channel. That's all I'm saying.
Is this a sample, or is this literally the one you're going to use?
This is literally the one I'm using this weekend.
You guys are running P25, DMR, and Simplex?
Well, we have Simplex is only if like the repeater dies and takes a lightning strike. The secondary is a further away repeater, so if we lost power at the repeater we currently are using, we could switch to that other repeater that's further away where everyone's going to sound really scratchy, but it would be workable. And in Colorado, it's just, Simplex, and you know this, Josh, and even in California hills, Simplex just, it's not the best.
It's great
solution.
Down here, actually.
Is it? Okay.
It's great.
Once behind the hill, it's not going to be that great around us with a 50-mile track.
That's true.
So what we have done in the past, and which is what our plan was, and again, remember when I was telling you a hectic week? We have a comm van, and it has a repeater in it, so it has a portable repeater in it, but also very better antennas. So once we moved it to the EOC to live there, mice decided to move into it this week, and it's now a fire hazard, and we don't have time to clean it up with wiring before we take it out this weekend.
So you gave the mice radios, and you add them to the plan, right?
Yeah, Ratatouille's got to get working. So that's the 205 is important, though. I'm not gonna downplay the 205, but everyone always asks, just send me the 205. Everything else is fine. No, it's actually the small things, the little things that are more important than the 205. The 205 you'll figure out as soon as you get on site. So this one is not highly used, but I use this to point out at different positions where there might be a hazard or a danger just for that position. So Alta Vista, they're going to be looking for every rider to make sure they make it through that trek because it's the toughest part of the course. So I just kind of put that out there and like, look, you really need to keep count of how many bicyclists come through your area, because if we're missing one, we have to send a team out to look for them because they could seriously be injured or fallen off this cliff right here. So we need you to keep a complete count. Most of these hazards are for all participants. But then again, I wrote one for intersections where the bikes will be crossing roads and saying there's not law enforcement on scene. You are the only thing. Please be safe. Wear your vest. Those kind of things. So not a highly used form in most Aries events, or most events for that matter. Your activity log, I can tell you guys that I have done, I don't know how many events I've done, but a bunch. And I've only probably had one activity log actually turn back into me at the end of an event. But this is very important, and I ask everyone to keep a log of times and such, especially when it's a new event, so we know how long we need to plan for aid stations to be up and running. Those kind of things. So if you have an activity log of the first rider through and the last rider through, just at the bare minimum, we know how long we have to ask somebody to staff a place. So it is helpful to do those logs. Don't hold off on that. Do those logs. The 9-line form, this is just a quick medical form. So if somebody did do the face plant in the cactus, which has happened, you just fill some information out about them, and this just helps send it along with AMR or whoever your emergency EMS might be or something, and it gets them the ball rolling and makes you accountable and gives you your tracks as well from assisting them at all, even handing them that pair of tweezers. You have a form here that you filled out. So, and then, excuse me, at the end, I just add kind of like my big maps, because I don't think that little area that they say put your map in here works very well. So I add a bigger map at the end. And the other thing that I add at the end of my IAP are things that we might know that we'll see. Heat exhaustion, just to tell the difference between those things. If it were in the middle of summer, or if it was a river event, which we've done, I would put something about severe weather and knowing the signs of drowning, things like that, just helpful things. So that's what I use to plan my events.
Well, very
and
good.
I hope everyone takes a look at doing that.
I have two questions, and I guess that's a comment too. So the first one is, do you guys use WinLink at all? Do you sometimes exchange these forms via WinLink?
It's a possibility that you could do that, but when you're out in the field, you don't want to ask them to bring like a big rig and a battery and things like that. So we do it during sets. The simulated emergency test will definitely ask all portable stations to send us WinLink messages for sure.
And Sean is simpatico with me because he literally sent that question right as I was asking that. So that was the first thing I was curious. Like, oh, we could do WinLink for all this. The next thing is, since you mentioned DMR and P25 and all that stuff, I want to see images of all the equipment you use. I want to see what you run out there, because that sounds fun, because you're running multiple radios to make all that work.
Okay.
She's going to go get them. Show and tell. Here it comes.
We're going to do it live. Well, she's going over there. I also wanted to show Tamitha Scove's Twitter. Look at these shots. Hold on. Let me show you this. Where did it go?
Yeah, the Aurora
Look at these
shot?
auroras.
Oh, my God. I know. It's incredible,
It's beautiful. People are they're tagging her with the auroras.
I want to see that. Ray's never going to talk to me again, you guys. So.
Oh, my goodness. Look at these.
Okay, so this is
well, I think you have an excuse for Ray, because you said, there's no D-Star in the area, right? So
there is not any D-Star in the area.
Yeah.
This is you can buy these on eBay, and they're fairly inexpensive, and you can do P25 and then also just your analog UHF.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an XTS 2500, about $150, honey. Okay, Jeff just wants to show this off because he loves it. It's a very expensive.
Oh, yeah, Jeff. Yeah. Okay. All right.
That is not in anybody's budget.
That's half the price of that 7851 that I'm going to buy. That Leia's going to buy for me.
Yeah. And then for DMR, I'm not going to go grab mine because it's on the charger, but a lot of the Anytones anymore are working quite nicely for DMR. So, and I have this little thing now because I can carry it in my purse and it's really light. But again, those are just kind of the back things that we use to it keeps some of the high traffic of people listening or lurking or that's it.
I never really thought about that, but it's like, yeah, that totally makes sense. So you kind of want to use different modes in some cases, particularly if you got like a squawk channel, or you called it the back channel, right? Like that makes perfect sense. So that's awesome.
Yep.
Don's got his notepad out. Hold on, here we go.
Note to self. Purse radio.
That's right.
It's on my Christmas list.
There you go.
Because I need one, clearly.
Back pocket and purse radio. It fits right into the pocket of my purse, and I can carry it. And I got to tell you, it sounds like crap. It does. If you talk analog
what
on
a ringing endorsement.
By the way, Note Cube's available at your friendly neighborhood DX
There you
Engineering.
go.
I have been told that holding it out like 2 feet away from my face, and
Like
they're
you're
like,
selfieing
"You
it?
are so hot that I can't understand what you're saying." So it's better for monitoring than it is to actually like have comms on. So it's not my go-to at all.
Your hotness actually travels
It
through
does.
the radio?
Yes.
Wow.
She's
Yeah.
radiating.
Just
Don,
factor.
she's radiating.
Yeah, clearly. I thought that was just my manliness, but apparently.
I thought it was just a shirt, but okay.
Apparently, my evil twin Lon got a hold of my radio, and your evil twin Miranda got a hold of yours and cranked it up a little bit. A little tweakage.
I'll have to send you a picture of my Go Merce, and it's got a tablet in it with a Bluetooth dongle, and it connects to my radio, and I can do WinLink over it through the tablet. It's a little tiny tablet. So I'll send that to you. You maybe be able to use that because it's definitely purse portable. Since I know you've got a purse radio, that would be possible.
It might be.
Right on.
I'm interested. All right. So that's it. The only other thing is, and if anyone else has any solutions on this without looking horribly geeky,
we're well past that. We're well past
hams.
that.
We're hams. We're well past that. Thank you. That train has sailed.
My biggest dilemma, I kid you not, is I'm always supposed to be with the race coordinators, right? So I'm supposed to feed them all the information I'm hearing on the course all the time. But guess what happens at start-finish lines all the time? Loud music.
And people screaming and cheering for their favorite, their family member.
And I miss half of the radio traffic. And I'm like, y'all help me out. Send me some solutions. So
headphones. Over-the-ear headphones.
Well, I do wear them on the show, right?
Yeah.
So, it just doesn't help you blend in. So,
sure.
I don't know. All right. Let's. What else do we got? Nets. We have nets. And gosh, we're almost on time. Oh, that's like a first. We have D-Star on 14 Charlie, DMR on 31012, and 20 meter net. I don't know when he's going to transition to 80. But I do know that it will probably be by November for sure. But look for Steve on 14268 and Kevin on 7192. And I'd like to thank again our net control so much for reaching out every week. And then we got Discord, right, Josh?
Yeah, not today though, because we've got sick kids at home and some other stuff I've got to handle. So I promise you all we'll get back together on the Discord after chat. But we will be, of course, doing the Discord after chat this Saturday for my live stream. This Saturday, we're going to have a USNER doc on, who is a amateur radio operator. He's an outdoors person. He's into RVing, and he is also a YouTuber that makes specialized medical equipment for first aid kits and all that stuff. So we'll be having him back on my show, and we're going to be talking about, well, he and I can just talk forever. So we're just going to hang out, talk first aid kits and ham radio. So it should be fun.
It does sound like a good time.
Yeah.
Very nice.
All right. Well, Don, you have anything to wrap up with, and then we'll go around the room?
Oh, I think I've said enough, don't you?
I just love hearing you talk, man. So I'm glad you're back out again this week.
I'm good, and I'm hoping to be able to get some time. Today was my only day off this week until Sunday, so we'll see if I can get on and do a little HF before all the good propagation goes away. Sunspot was just, like I said, when I turned on 20 and 40 earlier today, just before the show, I was like, holy moly. Just incredible. So I'm hoping to get out and do some HF stuff soon. But that's about it from the Piney Woods of South Mississippi.
Yeah, very good. Amanda, you've obviously got a big weekend coming up.
Yes, I do. it's going to be a fun time. We haven't done this for a couple years now, so I'm really excited. And they've changed the course, so that's always new and exciting as well. And sorry, Steve was saying 20 is toast, so they're going to 75. So look,
Wow.
Steve, tell me what around what frequency? I can't remember.
Yeah, I remember
If you start
20
where
died
did
off
he
pretty
usually?
fast. I don't remember
Was
what
it-
they go to on 80.
I can't either.
I don't have a good
Okay.
80 here, so I don't often
I know
play.
Dr. T's report said that we would not have good propagation night side, so maybe that's what happened. Just, sun went down and
Understandable.
Mm.
Well, anyhow, listen for him if you guys remember. Oh, he says in 2 weeks, not today. So no net tonight on 20 or 80, but in 2 weeks he's going to transition to 80. Okay, got it. Sorry guys for the confusion.
All right.
Anyhow, thanks everyone for being here. Join us again next in 2 weeks, October 27th. We're going to have a great show for you.
Indeed. All right, everybody.
Halloween. The Halloween show.
That's right. Everybody, I want you at home. Wear your costume while you're watching it.
Yeah.
So you can be
actually
in the spirit with us.
Send pictures in. Send us some pictures, and maybe we'll show some.
Yeah. Tag me on Twitter. Tag me
You
on
know, I
Twitter.
told you dress up.
Yeah,
I
and hold your radio, or maybe
exactly.
Yeah, that kind of thing. That'd be fun. All right, everybody, thank you for listening. I'll play you out.
Thank you, Josh. You're awesome.
73, everybody.
We appreciate you.